3 spine-chilling, true stories of sinister pursuers, revealed secrets that haunt the night. Lisa was just trying to get by, a single mom in the quiet, unassuming suburb of Brooksville. But lately, whispers filled the air, chilling her spine like a swift autumn wind. She clutched her daughter Emily tight every night before slipping into her scrubs for her graveyard shift at the hospital. The streetlights flickered ominously as she stepped into the night, dismissing the creeping dread that something wasn't right. Brooksville was supposed to be safe, wasn't it? The unsettling sounds crept in as darkness fell. A soft knock at the door sent shivers through her veins one night as she was trying to focus on a particularly complicated surgery. It echoed like the tolling of a sinister bell within her chest. But each night she reasoned it away, blaming her fatigue. Only tonight something felt different. As she arrived home, a picture of her and Emily, their goofy smiles radiating joy, was waiting for her, delicately placed on the porch, as if someone had been watching them. Panic sent her heart racing, but her neighbor Tom's cheerful face replaced her fear with a slight comfort. He offered to check in during her late shifts, always quick to lend a helping hand. But his gaze had begun to feel too intense, his demeanor crossing into the strange. The other neighbors only shrugged off her concerns, rolling their eyes and whispering about Tom's kindness, while she felt the weight of his unsettling past looming over her. "Just keep an eye out," she would tell herself, shaking the cold feeling of dread from her bones as she kept a watchful eye on Emily. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One night, as she returned from an exhausting shift, the darkness felt thicker, palpable with unease. Tom's silhouette stood by her mailbox, cloaked in shadows, a twisted smile curling his lips, as if the night belonged to him. Lisa felt that prickling sensation, the predatory way he watched her, but guilt chained her to the belief that she had to stand tall for Emily. Then came a blood-curdling scream that shattered the night, compelling her into a panic-fueled sprint toward home. The tension spiked to a fever pitch as she noticed the absence of her keys. Heart hammering, breath quickening, she turned to confront Tom, now standing too close to her door. "You shouldn't have come home so soon," he whispered, the casual tone dripping with a heavy threat. Shadows twisted around them both, painted in sinister shades, swallowing the soothing memories of her home. Could she save Emily before the darkness clutched at them? In that moment, Lisa was no longer just a single mother. She was a woman standing against the very essence of fear itself, caught in an unforgiving grip of survival. With a single breath, she knew her fight was just beginning. Lisa's heart raced, each thump echoing in her ears as she locked eyes with Tom. His twisted smile morphed into something more sinister, reflecting the darkness that surrounded them. She backed away, her whole body suffused with a primal instinct to flee. But where could she run? Her mind screamed at her, "Emily!" A surge of adrenaline shot through her as she forced her muscles to respond. In a swift motion she pivoted, her pulse pounding like a war drum, driving her to the side of the house. The garden felt unwelcoming. Shadows danced like mocking spectres against the night. Every sound was amplified, crickets buzzing, a distant dog barking, her own ragged breath tearing through the air. "Where do you think you're going?" Tom's voice slithered through the darkness. She could hear him moving, footsteps crunching against the gravel, relentless like the shadows themselves. The fear choked her, threatening to swallow her whole, but she caught a glimpse of the living room window, a warm glow waiting for her. Emily was inside, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing outside. "Stay calm. Just get to the door," she whispered to herself, praying to any higher power that could hear her. With trembling hands, she edged towards the back terminal. She could reach the door, just a few more steps. Tom's laughter echoed, sending icy shivers down her spine. "It's late, Lisa. Time to come home," he taunted. As if he had been anticipating her every move, he was closing in, his shadow stretching monstrous with the flickering porch light. A blinding urgency fueled her legs as she made a dash for the back door, the latch feeling too complicated in her panicked state. Fumbling, she cursed under her breath, frustration mounting as she finally twisted the knob, bursting inside just as Tom's shadow engulfed the step behind her. "Mommy!" Emily's innocent voice yanked at her heart. The sight of her daughter brought a wave of relief, but that comfort was quickly tainted by impending dread. "Sweetheart, hurry!" she urged, her mind racing. The chill in the air froze her blood, and she cautiously moved through the house, scanning every corner. The suffocating silence knotted her stomach. The distant bickering of neighbors seemed a world away. She needed to protect Emily. There was no time to second-guess her instincts. Suddenly, with a jolt, a loud crash resonated from outside, splintering the silent night, a sound like glass shattering. Lisa's heart plummeted. Tom was not just an unsettling neighbor anymore. He had betrayed whatever shaky hold they once had. "Mom! What's happening?" Emily's innocent face twisted with fear. "Stay close, honey," Lisa choked out, fighting the urge to shield her with her entire body. In that moment, she saw her daughter mirrored in the wide-eyed reflection of every child that had ever lived in fear. The back door creaked open behind them, a shadow stretching across the threshold. Lisa froze, a surge of adrenaline deep in her veins. In an instant, she realized they were no longer just facing Tom. The entire night felt alive, pulsing with a malevolence that reached out for them. "Lisa!" Tom's voice broke through the doorway, low and seductive like a serpent's hiss. "Let's play a game." There was a sickening chill that clung to the air as the room began to close in around them. Lisa grabbed Emily's hand with resolve, but thoughts raced through her mind. This was not a game anymore. What if this was only the beginning? As the shadow moved further into their sanctuary, she glanced at the window, the night stretching out with untold dangers. What would happen if she couldn't stop him? Would she be able to protect Emily? With resolve hardening her spine, she whispered, "Whatever it takes." But how much could she sacrifice to keep her daughter safe? Even as she prepared for battle, the night began to ripple with unseen horrors. What would Tom do next? And were they even safe in their own home? The creaking floorboards whispered under Lisa's feet as she moved further from the doorway, but the sound felt deafening in the suffocating silence. She could hear her heart, steady but fast, echoing in her ears alongside Emily's frightened breaths. Time was stretching like an uncanny elastic band, ready to snap with one wrong move. "Mommy, I'm scared." Emily clutched her mother's hand, her small fingers trembling. Lisa squeezed back, willing strength into them both. "Don't worry, sweetheart. Stick close to me, okay?" She threw a quick glance toward the shadow, but found only the void where Tom had stood moments before. The warmth of the living room air felt like a cruel joke against the icy knots of fear tightening in her gut. They were trapped here, locked in a space filled with memories of laughter and joy that now felt tainted, a battleground twisted by dread. A soft thud echoed, breaking the stillness. Lisa froze, her breathing caught in her throat, every instinct screaming a warning. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, crouching low to be eye level with Emily. The little girl nodded, tears pooling in her wide eyes. "It's him, isn't it?" "I don't know." The truth was, Lisa could feel the darkness closing in, wrapping around them like a suffocating shroud. Every creak of the house seemed to mock her desperation. Another noise, this time near the kitchen, made Lisa's heart leap. It came again, a slow, scrapping sound, like nails dragging on wood. Tom was inside now. He had maneuvered around them, a dark puppet master pulling the strings of their fear. "Mommy," Emily whimpered, and that simple plea tore through Lisa with jagged edges. "Hide!" She motioned to a small cupboard beside the fridge. Emily nodded earnestly, pressing herself into the tight space just as another sound pierced the night, the unmistakable slide of something heavy being pushed across the counter. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. Each moment felt like an eternity, the pressure rising as she shuffled silently behind the kitchen island. She glanced up just in time to see Tom's silhouette pass through the archway, stalking through her home, predatorily hunting. He leaned against the doorframe, a twisted grin spreading across his face as he surveyed the empty room. "Where are you hiding, Lisa?" His voice was smooth, but it dripped with venom. A surge of anger almost broke through Lisa's terrified exterior. He couldn't toy with them like this, but the fear kept her rooted to the spot, paralyzed by the knowledge that confrontation was inevitable. The tightness in her chest threatened to suffocate her as Tom stepped deeper into the room, each deliberate movement intentional, sadistic. Lisa couldn't hold back her thoughts. If she didn't act now, she would lose everything. But how? Then she remembered the knife set in the drawer behind her. Just a few steps, and she could get it, but getting there meant exposing herself. It was a gamble. Would running for the knife draw him in further, or send him racing in the opposite direction? "Please, no." Emily's voice was a haunting echo of her own fears. Lisa felt each word piercing through her heart. "Mom!" Taking a deep breath, determination surged within. She had to protect her daughter. Enough was enough. Whatever it took, she was ready to face him. In one swift motion, she lunged across the kitchen, avoiding the open spaces, moving like a shadow herself. "Oh, now we're playing hide-and-seek." Tom's laughter burst forth, chilling her to the bone as she reached desperately for the knife. The cold steel felt reassuring in her palm, but there was no time to relish the moment. He was getting closer, the darkness edging forward. "Do you want to play with me, Lisa?" It was a sick game, and she had to put an end to it. Was this her only chance to turn the tables? As she turned, knife clenched tight. Something lurking in the corner of her vision made her freeze. The shadows weren't just holding Tom anymore. They were building into a shape, something more sinister rising in the depths of the dark. What awaited beyond the boundaries of the night? And was she truly prepared for the terror that was about to unfold? The flickering light from the kitchen overhead cast an eerie glow as Lisa tried to focus on the shape lurking beyond the shadows. Her grip tightened around the knife's handle, knuckles white, heart racing. Her instincts screamed to run, but the foreboding presence anchored her in place. Time seemed to throb, stretching longer than it should, with each heartbeat dissolving into the silence. What was emerging from the dark? Was it Tom? Or something worse? The shadow coalesced into a more defined figure, but it was hard to see. It didn't move like Tom. It slithered, danced, like some grotesque caricature of a human. A flash of dark hair, suddenly illuminated by the sickly yellow light, revealed a face that Lisa could hardly comprehend. With a sudden gasp, she realized the figure wasn't just another outline of terror, it was a reflection. As she braced herself, the dark eyes bore into her from across the room, mirroring her own fear. Tom's voice slipped through the space, smooth and deceptive. "Nice knife you have there, but we shouldn't play with sharp things. They can hurt." Lisa swallowed hard, glancing back at Emily, who had remained tragically quiet in her cupboard, the shock of horror clinging to her like a wet blanket. Stay quiet, sweetie." "No matter what," she managed to whisper, her voice barely above a breath. Tom stepped closer, and the room's temperature seemed to drop as he laughed softly, gleefully. "She can't help you now, Lisa. It's just us," he mocked, his eyes glinting beneath the dim light, hunger pulsing from them. But there was something different about him, not just a hunter, but a puppeteer. He twisted reality as he took one more step, inching toward the light. As the fear rose like bile, Lisa felt a strange resilience start to bloom within her. What if the knife wasn't just for defense? What if it was her ticket to breaking free? Finding her resolve, she gritted her teeth. "I'll show you how sharp it really is, Tom," she spat, refusing to be paralyzed any longer. Suddenly his laughter stopped, replaced by a fierce intensity that suffocated the air between them. "You think you're brave? You're just like them, always thinking you can fight back." He leaned in closer, creating an unsettling intimacy that made her skin crawl. "But you learned nothing from what happened before, so naive." Memories flooded her mind, whispers from years past, warnings from frightened friends. "People like you always overestimate themselves. I know your fear, Lisa. It's just waiting, like a spider in its web." His voice dripped with disdain as he stepped fully into the light. There he stood, not just her husband, but something twisted and terrifying, a stranger wearing a familiar face. The tension snapped, and without thinking, Lisa lunged toward the figure, the knife thrusting out. She aimed for the space between two ribs, the cold steel glinting like a silver star in the dark, promising relief from the darkness. But the moment before she reached him, the floor beneath her shifted, a loud crack echoing as Tom's form flickered like a movie glitch. He simply vanished, leaving her lunging toward empty space, disoriented, her heart racing with confusion. "Mommy, where did he go?" Emily peered from the cupboard, anxiety crackling in her small voice. "Stay there," Lisa shouted, heart pounding. She shot a frantic glance around the kitchen, echoes of his laughter bubbling up, filling the air with dread. The shadows began to twist again, reforming, but this time they didn't reflect the familiar face of Tom. No, they morphed into something far worse, stretching and bending in impossible directions. The walls seemed to throb, pulsing with a dark energy that invited chaos. As it advanced, Lisa realized they weren't just trapped in the darkness of their home. The darkness was alive, feeding off their fear, thriving in their despair. Terror unspooled before her eyes as she faced this new threat, fists clenched around the knife. What had she truly awakened? Was it Tom's monstrous side, or something worse that lingered beyond his form? "Emily!" Lisa's voice cracked, panic blooming anew. "Get ready! We need to fight!" But the shadows loomed ever closer, whispering secrets that promised no escape. In that moment, Lisa knew they had crossed a line. What new horror awaited them in this dark game? As the shadows flickered and writhed, threatening to engulf them, one thing was certain. This was only the beginning. The shadows churned like a storm, an unholy writhing mass that reached out for Lisa, tendrils of darkness snaking toward her like hungry mouths. Each whisper slithered into her ears, distorted echoes of her own thoughts, taunting her, reminding her of her greatest fears. "You can't fight this. You can't escape. He will find you." Lisa's heart raced ferociously in her chest, and sweat dripped from her palms as they clutched the cold knife. "Emily!" she shouted again, the terror in her voice a raw edge. The little girl's presence was her only anchor in this nightmare, and she wasn't going to let her down, not now. With every ounce of resolve, Lisa turned toward the creeping shadows. "I won't let you take her," she screamed, as if valor could solidify her will. As the words left her lips, the very air around her seemed to respond, thick and pulsing, like a living thing itself. One shadow took a step forward, forming a grotesque figure with elongated limbs that danced to a rhythm only it could hear. Its eyes flickered, revealing nothing but a void, the darkness feeding off her fear. "You are outmatched, little moth," it hissed, voice a shrill wind bereft of mercy. The knife felt almost warm in her hand then, power gathering in the tension like storm clouds about to unleash their fury. Lisa was no insect to be devoured. She would strike back. "Try me!" She lunged at the nearest shadow, slashing through the air with desperate precision, but the blade met nothing. Air filled with the sound of her breath, and a mocking laugh echoed back, hollow and cold. "Is that what you think you can do?" It sneered, undulating further, drawing closer. "Run, Mommy!" Emily cried, fear spilling from every word. The words clawed at Lisa's heart, her resolve wavering under the weight of her daughter's panic. "No!" Lisa stepped back, guarding the little girl's space. "Not now!" Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught her eye. The shadows behind her forming a wall as Tom's laughter returned, louder, more maddening. His voice wrapped around her like chains, taunting her sanity. "You thought I'd just leave. This is my domain now." Lisa's breath felt constricted, the room twisted, the walls leaning in, bending reality as if it were Play-Doh shaped by unseen hands. It was not only Tom she was dealing with, it was his spirit that thrived in this chaos, an echo that hungered for despair. She was not alive in her own home, but instead stuck in a haunting limbo. "No, no, no!" The mantra formed a barrier in her mind, a rhythm to keep her grounded. She focused on Emily's terrified face, those innocent eyes pouring their trust into her. She had to find a way out. The shadows collided with one another, a screeching cacophony reaching a fever pitch. The floorboards creaked underfoot, as if the house itself was alive, trembling in anticipation of whatever horror was yet to come. Lisa steadied herself, preparing to defend her daughter against a nightmare that twisted her very reality. "What do you want?" she shouted, desperately seeking any information that could weaken the shadow's grip. An unholy pause followed, filled only with the raspy breathing of the darkness, a sinister lull in the chaos. "What I want?" The shadow grinned, stretching its shape in a horrifying display of elongated claws and jagged teeth. "I want everything you hold dear, Lisa. I want the little girl to watch you break." Madness seeped into her bones at the utterance of those cruel, sickening words. Lisa felt the ice gnawing at her spine, the desperation ignited in her. "You won't have her," she hissed, voice steady despite her terror mounting. With every ounce of strength, she stood tall, planting her feet firmly and gripping the knife as if it were the last lifeline in a tainted sea. Then out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a glimmer, her grandmother's old clock on the wall, still ticking defiantly through the darkness. It felt like a heartbeat, a reminder of the lives before this chaos, of love and memory. "Emily!" she called, pointing toward the clock. We can use it, we can—" Before she could finish, the shadows lunged all at once, a tidal wave, bodies crashing together in an unholy roar. The knife slipped from her grasp. As it clattered to the ground, Lisa's scream mingled with the cacophony, filled with primal fear. Darkness encircled, swallowing the world whole. Time fell away into a void. What awaited her in that abyss of shadow? How much longer could they resist the suffocating darkness closing in? With every heartbeat echoing through the silence, the question remained. Would they survive, or would fear consume them? The darkness enveloped Lisa and Emily like a shroud, the air thick with despair. Time was no longer a friend. It stretched and compressed, warping reality until the ticking of the clock sounded like thunder. Panic surged through Lisa as the shadows lunged, a wave of malice ready to engulf them. "Stay close, Emily!" she shouted, her voice cracking. But her words were drowned out by a cacophony of shrieks, a chorus of torment echoing inside her skull. Each ragged breath stung, the chill of the darkness clawing at her skin, threatening to flay her alive. With trembling hands, Lisa fumbled for something, anything, to anchor her in this nightmare. The knife was gone, lost to the swirling void. She could feel Emily's tiny body pressed against hers, warmth against the cold terror that surrounded them. "What do I do?" Lisa thought, her mind racing, desperation spilling like water from a cracked dam. Then Emily spoke, her voice small yet resolute. "The clock, Mommy. It still ticks." In the midst of the chaos, each heartbeat of the clock combined with her daughter's words pulled her like a lifeline through the darkness. Lisa's gaze darted back to the fading light of that clock, the second hand moving in defiance of the shadows threatening to consume them. "Yes," Lisa breathed, "the clock, it's a link to time, if we can reach it." But then, like a serpent coiling tighter, the shadows lunged again. The grotesque figure stretched and shifted, its hollow eyes glinting with hunger. "You think time can save you?" it sneered. "What you hold dear is mine. Fear connects you to me." Lisa's heart stopped. Fear? No. Fear would be their downfall. She felt it now, a flicker of clarity emerging from a fog of anxiety. The clock was more than just time. It was life, a symbol of humanity's endurance. "Listen to me, Emily," she urged, gripping her daughter's shoulders, feeling the warmth of her small form. "We need to make the shadows remember what they can't take." In the dim light, Lisa focused on the rhythmic ticking, each click a heartbeat, a reminder of the past, a promise of a future. She could feel the weight of generations behind her, their hopes wrapped around them like a protective cloak. "Remember, you are not mine to take," she shouted, channeling every ounce of love she felt, radiating it toward the shadows. "You want fear? You will get nothing but defiance. You can't have us." Silence fell for a split second, a shocking stillness in the storm of darkness. Then the shadows began to retaliate, surging forward, unleashing shrieks that ripped through the air. "The clock cannot protect you," they howled, but their voice held a tremor. "Maybe it can," Lisa shouted back, a determined surge of adrenaline powering her as she grasped Emily's hand tightly. "Let it remind you of what I will do to protect my child." With that surge of strength they surged toward the clock, the heart of the house, where memories danced and shadows quivered. But as they approached, the room shifted like quicksand, the walls bending perilously. "Mommy!" Emily cried as a shadow reached for them, clawed hands slicing the air. Time was running out. The clock's ticking intensified, each tick echoing like a battle cry. Would they reach it in time? Could love bend the fierce shadows that threatened to tear them apart? The shadows converged relentlessly, teeth bared, the price of surrender echoing in Lisa's heart. As they reached the clock, a sudden flash struck through the air, a light piercing the obsidian dark. What would this light reveal? Would it be salvation or doom? The lean figure of the clock loomed tall, a gateway suspended between two worlds, and Lisa held her breath, waiting for the answer to unfold. Light exploded from the clock, blinding and fierce. Lisa flinched, dragging Emily closer, shielding her with her body. The shadows hesitated, momentarily weakened by the unexpected illumination, as though they weren't accustomed to it. Hope flickered like a flame on a gusty night. "There it is! The light!" Emily gasped, her eyes wide. "We can escape!" Lisa's heart hammered, her instincts flaring. But before she could respond, the darkness quivered, reconfiguring itself, the shadows morphing into twisted shapes that resembled lost souls. The air thrummed, thick with tension as they hissed in unison. "You cannot hide in the light forever." With a deep breath, Lisa forced herself to step forward, clutching Emily's hand tighter. "We have to reach it, no matter what." The clock towered above them. Its face spun erratically, numbers dissolving into white noise. Each tick resonated, a relentless heartbeat that seemed to pulse into their very veins. A sense of urgency pressed down on Lisa, each second echoing with a reminder of what was at stake. "Think about what you're fighting for, Lisa," she whispered to herself. "You can do this." The shadows lunged, ferocious and angry, dragging their malice through the air. Claw-like tendrils reached for them, the raspy whispers of ominous voices murkily promising despair and desolation. Lisa stumbled back, adrenaline surging in her veins. She could feel the cold touch of fear creeping into the nooks of her mind, but she forced it aside, letting the fierce love for her daughter consume her. "Embrace the light," Lisa shouted, her voice ringing out above the chaos. "Emily, hold on tight." Drained and desperate, they lunged toward the clock together. As they moved, the light expanded, wrapping around them like a protective cocoon. The shadows hissed, their bodies now freezing in place, unable to close the distance. "Go! Now!" The two pushed into the core of the clock, the light transforming into a whirlwind, a portal that promised escape. Still, the shadows moved, hungry and furious, fighting against the foundation that held them at bay. Lisa and Emily felt the tug of time, a magnetic pull that threatened to snatch them away. Suddenly the light dimmed, flickering like the last remnants of a dying star. A violent wind howled through the room, snatching at their clothes and hair, pulling them apart. Lisa's grip faltered for a heartbeat, and panic surged. "Mommy! Emily? I'm right here!" she screamed, regaining her footing, but as she reached out, another wave crashed against them, the shadows entwining with their fears, whispering promises of separation, of eternal darkness. Out of desperation, Lisa ripped her focus back to the clock, its hands now spinning backward in a wild frenzy. It was controlling the darkness. They could turn back time, could escape this moment if they could just reach the very center. With every ounce of strength she pushed ahead. The shadows howled, wailing with the agony of 100 lost souls. Lisa felt a piercing cold gnaw at her resolve, as if the past was clawing back, eager to reclaim them. "Together, Emily!" she shouted, now deafened by the cacophony. "On the count of 3, we jump." "Okay," Emily squeaked, her voice trembling but determined. 1, 2... Lisa could feel the shadows tightening, desperately reaching for them. 3... They leaped into the heart of the clock, their bodies swallowed by the light just as shadows reached out, clawing at nothing but air. All submissive silence filled the air, heavy and thick. Then suddenly they were tumbling through a void, a rush of time and memories swirling like leaves in the wind. Bright flashes of color engulfed them, an ache in their hearts as they tumbled through memories, both beautiful and haunting. Yet somewhere out there in the edge of the darkness, something stirred and grew restless, the shadows coiling tighter around the still ticking clock. "What if we didn't escape?" whispered a voice that seemed to trail from the shadows back into the depths of her mind. As they drifted between what had been and what could be, Lisa's throat tightened, instinctively knowing that the battle was far from over. What awaited them on the other side of the clock? Did the light bind them, or simply lead them deeper into peril? The rush of colors faded, replaced by an oppressive gray. Lisa and Emily landed with a thud on cold, hard ground. The world around them was silent, void of life. Lisa blinked, her eyes desperately trying to focus. "Where are we?" Emily's voice trembled, breaking the eerie silence. Lisa looked around. Nothing familiar resonated. The haunted essence of the clock tower lingered, but now a mist hung thick in the air, curling and twisting like the shadows they had escaped. It cloaked their surroundings, chilling their skin, tugging at the edges of their sanity. "Mummy, I don't like this," Emily whispered, her small hand clutching Lisa's tightly. "It's okay, sweetie," Lisa said, though uncertainty gnawed at her heart. "We'll find a way." They stepped forward, the silence wrapping tighter around them. With every footfall, the sound echoed, bouncing off unseen walls. It felt as if the ground were alive, thrumming beneath their feet, as though it were a heartbeat, deep and disquieting. "Do you hear that?" Emily asked, her eyes wide, scanning their surroundings. Lisa strained to listen. The soft sound of breathing. No, it was more like a multitude of sighs, each carried with it despair, echoing their own fears. She shuddered, realizing it felt like they were not alone. Out of the mist, a figure materialized, a blurry silhouette of a man standing motionless. He appeared at once familiar yet grotesque, his features obscured by darkness. "You shouldn't have come here," he rasped, voice dripping with a sinister calm. With every instinct screaming, Lisa pulled Emily closer, shielding her behind her back, a fierce mother lion protecting her cub. "Stay back," she commanded, but her voice wavered. The figure stepped forward, shadows clinging to him like a shroud. As he moved, wisps of darkness spiraled around him, and Lisa's heart raced faster. "You're running into a trap. The light only delays the inevitable." "What do you want?" she demanded, fear infusing her words with steel. The man grinned, a chilling sight that cut through the fog. "To show you the truth." Before Lisa could protest, he flicked his wrist, and the mist around them swirled violently, rearranging into images, scenes from their own lives. There was Emily, playing in the park. There was Lisa, laughing at some old family gathering. But as the scenes continued to play, they darkened, twisting into gruesome representations of loss and regret. Emily gasped, eyes widening in horror. "No! Turn it off!" "Those are the shadows of your past," he said, his voice now dripping with an unsettling amusement. "You've run from them so long, but they will always catch up to you." A deep dread clawed at the back of Lisa's mind. "We won't let you take us," she screamed, voice echoing, but doubt crept in despite her fierce proclamations. The man advanced again, shadow tendrils unfurling, reaching toward Emily, who screamed, "Mommy!" "Emily, no!" Lisa's desperation surged. She lunged forward, putting herself between her daughter and the sinister figure just as a cacophony of whispers erupted around them, overlapping and frantic. "You cannot escape the truth," the man hissed, the shadows behind him quaking with a life of their own. Lisa closed her eyes, her heart racing. Focus. She needed the light, the hope they had clung to. Gathering her strength, she shouted into the cacophony, "We choose the light!" The mist thickened, pulling tight around them, each breath tasting metallic and heavy. She felt Emily's warmth behind her, fierce and strong. And just for a moment she caught a glimpse of the clock again, a flicker of golden light, beckoning. But just as hope ignited, the shadows surged forward, crashing like a wave, ready to pull them under. What happens if we can't find it? Lisa thought, terror blooming in her chest. As the shadows swallowed them whole, the last vestiges of the clock dimmed, and the darkness roared, ready to take what it desired. Would they find the light, or would they plummet into eternal despair? The darkness tightened around Lisa and Emily, a living thing that whispered their worst fears. Shadows lunged, tendrils stretching, almost caressing. Lisa felt a cold dread wrap around her heart. She clutched Emily's hand, holding on as if it were a lifeline. "Stay with me!" Lisa shouted, her voice battling against the sibilant voices that seemed to echo all around. The man's laughter pierced through the gloom, a stark reminder of their vulnerability. "You think you can take the light? You'll never escape your past." Suddenly the images shifted again, flooding the mist. This time they were not mere memories, but twisted reflections of moments that could have been. Emily crying at a birthday party, Lisa staring at a grave, her breath hitching as she recalled loss. Each vision clawed at her unlike the last, presenting her with horrors she thought sealed tight. "No! Stop!" Emily's high voice cut through the nightmare. "We're not like that!" The figure stepped closer, his expression warped into a feigned sympathy. "Ah, but you are. The truth does not bend to your feelings. Your pain is what drew you here." Lisa felt the ground beneath them twist, as if it were alive, echoing with long-buried regrets. "We're not! We're going to find the light!" she yelled, but her voice faltered as doubt seeped in. Suddenly, a piercing scream erupted from Emily, slicing through Lisa's resolve. "Mommy, help!" The shadows closed in, dark eyes peering out from the mist, hungry watching. Lisa's heart sank. What if she couldn't protect her? "Stay close," she cried, yanking Emily forward, desperate to escape the tightening grip. Just then, the ground shook, the whispers turning into screams. "Don't fight it," they shouted, a guttural chorus shaking the air. "You belong to the darkness now." A blinding flash momentarily splintered the haze, revealing a jagged path illuminated by flickering flames, vivid against the grey. A miracle or a trap? Lisa hesitated, torn, but Emily was slipping, grasping at shadows, eyes wide with terror and confusion. "Hold on to me!" Lisa cried, pulling her daughter closer, finding a thread of courage in the chaos. They ran towards the flickering light, each step heavier than the last, fear clawing at their backs. The shadowy figure loomed larger, stretching like a dark tower overhead, taunting them with each howl of despair. "You can't escape. You will face what you deny." But they kept running, hearts pounding, hoping against hope. They reached the flames, a roaring fire of defiance against the encroaching darkness. They leaped, feeling warmth wrap around them like a protective cocoon. The flames crackled, offering a fleeting moment of clarity within chaos. "Look!" Emily pointed. Beyond the fire, a door stood silhouetted, slightly ajar, promises of light beckoning within. "Let's go!" Lisa urged, grabbing Emily's hand and racing toward it. Each footfall drummed a rhythm of urgency, pounding in their chests. They couldn't look back. There was no safety in the darkness behind, but as they neared the door, the Shadow Man's laughter rose above their frantic breaths. "You think you can just walk away? The truth always finds a way back." Lisa's heart pounded harder, the door so close yet feeling unreachable. "We have to, now," she urged Emily, pumping her legs faster. As they approached, the air crackled, heavy with foreboding. What lay beyond could be salvation or doom. "Mommy, what if it's a trick?" Emily whimpered. The fear in her eyes froze Lisa's breath. The door loomed larger, reality bending under the weight of their desperation. Would they step into freedom or a more horrific trap? With hearts racing, it became a matter of split seconds, one choice that could change everything. "Together!" Lisa shouted, summoning every ounce of strength, but what would await them through that door? As the shadows thrummed behind them, clawing and hungry, the door creaked wider. Would they find salvation or face the Reaper unleashed? The door creaked open, releasing a blinding light that flooded the darkness around them. Lisa squinted through the brilliant haze, heart pounding as she pulled Emily close. The shadows wavered, flickering like candles caught in a tempest, their whispers dissolving into incoherent cries. It was now or never. "Ready, sweetie," Lisa whispered, squeezing Emily's hand tightly, grounding both of them in the moment. The warmth of the light beckoned them forward, a siren call of hope amidst despair. "Yes, Mommy!" Emily's determination surged, lighting her eyes. Together they stepped through the threshold, and as the blinding light enveloped them, it felt like stepping into the sun after a lifetime in the dark. They tumbled onto a grassy hill under a cerulean sky, bathed in warmth. The sound of laughter, the fresh scent of blooming flowers, this had to be a dream. Lisa blinked through tears, disbelieving her senses. All around them were vibrant colors and familiar voices, children playing, families gathering. It was a glistening tapestry of life. "Emily!" Lisa gasped, pulling her daughter to her, overwhelmed with gratitude. "Mommy, it's beautiful." Emily laughed, spinning in the sunshine, her joyous giggles echoing in the air. Lisa watched her, her heart full, yet heavy with everything they had faced. This was the world she had fought to protect. But even as the scene unfolded, shadows lingered at the edges of her mind. Would they truly be free, or had the darkness merely retreated to wait for another day? "Mommy," Emily's voice pulled her from her thoughts. "What happens now?" Lisa crouched, meeting her daughter's gaze. We remember, Emily. We hold on to this light, this love. We'll face the darkness together if it ever comes back, but we'll also cherish these moments. Okay? Emily nodded, her smile wide and innocent. Lisa took a moment to breathe, letting the warmth of hope wrap around her like a shield. Days passed in this vibrant world, punctuated by joy and laughter. Yet in the quiet moments, shadows crept in unannounced, the reminders of fear and loss lurking just beyond the sunlit horizon. But Lisa stood steadfast, her love fueling her resolve. She spoke to Emily of bravery, of facing their fears, teaching her to weave the threads of their happiness into protective armor. One evening, as the sun streaked the sky with fiery oranges and purples, Lisa kneaded dough in the kitchen, surrounded by familiar scents of home. She felt an unmistakable presence behind her, a shadow shaped by fading memories. It approached slowly, tender yet formidable. "Hello, Lisa." The voice was soft yet chilling, winding through the air like an ominous fog. "Tom, why are you here?" She turned, her heart sinking as the familiar face morphed before her, past and present colliding in a tumultuous wave. "I came to offer you a choice," he said, eyes reflecting sorrow and malice all at once. "You can join me in the darkness. It's safe there, away from pain." "I've faced the darkness, Tom. You don't scare me." Lisa's voice steadied, the weight of their past not ready to crush her. The shadows drifted around him, a tempest of doubt and despair. "You can't have forever happiness without loss. You know that." "I will not lose Emily," she retorted, faith threading through her words as she took a step forward. "Then what will you sacrifice to keep her?" The darkness swirled closer, whispering fears she had fought to keep at bay. With a shuddering breath, she smiled with newfound clarity. "I choose light. I choose love. Those choices define me, not fear." In that moment the air shifted, the shadows recoiled, howling in anguished disbelief. The brightness of her love shocked the darkness, forcing it to dissipate into the ether, revealing the vastness of the world around them. "Mommy?" Emily entered the kitchen, innocence shining in her eyes. "Time to make something special, sweetheart." Lisa grinned, pulling Emily close, realizing they had shifted the narrative within them. The choice they had made together wasn't just about facing fear. It was about embracing the joy that came after. As the sunlight streamed through the window, washing over them in a golden embrace, Lisa knew the darkness would always linger in the recesses, but could never take from them what was rightfully theirs. Love would always win. And from that day Lisa vowed to nurture the light, keeping the shadows at bay while Emily grew, a beacon of hope in their world of love. "Come on! Let's bake!" And as they moved together in simple joy, they left behind the darkness that once threatened their existence, stepping fully toward a new dawn, a promise fulfilled. The screen faded to black, leaving viewers to ponder on their own battles with darkness and the light they could embrace. If you enjoyed this gripping conclusion, you need to subscribe immediately. This is the moment to show your support for epic stories like this one. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories. You know I want to hear your thoughts. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful ending. Together, let's spread the light.